can't believe we've had 94 shows.
Amazing.
So we have in studio tonight. Tonight is an interview night. We have interviewed members of the bands. Let's call it the bands gone by, past and present. And today we have in studio with us one of the drummers of Schlock Rock, who has the distinction of having been the #1 drummer for Schlock Rock in America, and then when he made Aliyah, became the #1 drummer for Schlock Rock in Israel. Welcome to the show, Mike Roth.
Thank you very much, Lenny. Thanks for having me. So good to be here.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. It's great to have you. Just for everybody out there, we're here at the Four Corners Project.org studio here in Beit Shemesh, Israel, and Mike is in Modi'in. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
I think
last
time I said you were from Efrat, and you looked at me strange. I don't know why I did that. But anyway, so it is the 28th day of Adar, or at least tonight is the 28th day of Adar, and we are only 16 days from Seder. 16 days from Seder. So we hope you're not panicking. But for the next 30 minutes, we're going to make you feel nice and relaxed here at the Four Corners Project.org studio here in Beit Shemesh. I wanted you to remind you all that if you're watching from Facebook, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment. If you're watching from YouTube, either on Schlock Rock or the Four Corners channel, hit like and subscribe, leave a comment. And if you're watching on Twitter at Lenny Solomon, make sure you retweet it around. And today, so Mike, we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to divide our show up into two 15-minute segments, and it always goes very, very quickly, as all the guys in the band who have been on attest to. But let's start with your musical upbringing. When did you start playing drums? And tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I started taking formal drum lessons, when I was 6. My dad was a little bit of a drummer. He had a small simcha band, and he had drums. And I started taking lessons with Mr. Ed Banks at Robbie's Music Store in Little Falls, New Jersey, when I was 6. And
wow.
And I took lessons for about 3 years. The first song that I ever learned to play on the drums was "Hey Jude."
Really?
And that was the first song, and it's a really great song to. It's a great song to learn because it's really easy. And I remember Mr. Banks told me, to clap, "Hey Jude," and then I would start clapping, and then I would play. And so I took lessons till I was about 9. Then I took a little bit of a break, and then I went through another period of formal lessons when I was like around 13 till I was about 17. And then when I came back from Israel and I started getting a little more serious, so then I took some lessons with John Arucci, and then of course our mutual friend Shmuel Wasserman, Shalom, who kind of put me into the biz, as it were.
So Shmuel Wasserman, may he rest in peace. Shmuel Wasserman, who was actually the reason that we met. Because I believe he called me up and he said, "I got a drummer for you."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I think when I came back from Israel in '91, I was in Israel for 2 years after high school, and '91 was when I came back, and there were 3 things that happened at the same time, which I think led up to the Schlock Rock moment. The first one was that I met Mo Shapiro, and he became a very close friend. And we started doing New York NCSY together, and just doing YU engagement parties together, and just playing and hanging out a lot. The second thing was that I was doing a lot of Jersey NCSY and playing with people like Jordan and Jonathan Rimberg, who were friends of yours as well. And
right.
Then the third thing was Shmuel. And so we had a lot of mutual friends, and I guess that's how I kind of got to. I guess that's how you got to know me, was through those mutual friends.
Right. Right. And Shmuel Wasserman called me up one day and said, I have got a drummer for you. He can play the gig. He'll be great. And he was right. And he was your teacher too for a short time, correct?
He was my teacher. Yeah, he taught me. He taught me for a while, for a few years. And what would happen was I was in YU at that time, and basically I was Shmuel's schlepper, and I would go with him three times a week at least to his gigs, set up his drums. He'd let me play the shmorg, and I would hang out with the guys, get to know him, get to know the business, and we became very close.
And then you
hanging
started
out.
getting calls on your own from wedding bands because you
Right.
eventually became a regular at both at the Neshama Orchestra, right?
Right.
Did you play
What
a lot
happened
with
was that
Regina or not so much?
Well, what happened was I was, like I said, I was going on gigs with Shmuel and sitting in and playing. But what happened was at Shmuel's wedding, it was basically everyone who he wanted to know in the Jewish music business, both from Neshama and Nagina was there. And I think it was officially Nagina was the band, but then at one point, Gadi Bodinger said, Nagina now presents Neshama, and then all the Neshama guys got on the bandstand and started playing, and then they let me sit in, and I played, and then I think it was probably the next day that Eli Zamek called me and offered me a bunch of gigs with Neshama. So
It's amazing. And then
happened.
eventually you started playing for Navshenu also with Jonathan Rimberg, correct? When
Yeah, that
Jonathan
was a
went
little
over
bit
there.
later. Right. When I was after I moved to Israel, so we'd come back every summer, and my main gigs were with Nafshenu.
Of course, now the industry has totally
Completely, yeah. And it was hard to get. It was hard to get into the business here. I tried to get into the wedding business, the simcha business here when I came, and it was very difficult.
Interesting. Well, you're in the Simcha business with Shlock Rock, as you know. And we have
That's
to
all
talk
that
about
counts.
now your experiences in Shlock Rock. But before we do that, I want you to tell us, you went to Israel for the, well, first thing is I want to give a shout out to our associate producer, Judy Hertzfeld, who's in the house. And of course, Judy lives in Clifton, Passaic, which is where you're
Okay.
from.
Yeah, I grew up in Passaic.
You grew up in Passaic. Mike Roth grew up in Passaic. Now, the thing is, you went off to Israel and you did something that not many people do, which is as soon as you finished your first year, I believe, it was either your first year or your second year, and you went to the Army.
Yeah, I did. I was a year in Gush, and that was '89, and then I stayed another year to do the Army, right?
Which is unbelievable because most people, if they're going to stay a second year, they might go to Hebrew U, they might go to Bar Ilan, they might stay another year in yeshiva. You ended up doing a Army program, which is you joined the Army. Now, did your parents know that you were going to join the Army?
So I obviously had to tell them, and they were very supportive. It's actually it's pretty common, I think, now for kids to come and do the Army. Back then, for Americans to stay another year and do the Army was very rare. A lot of the British kids did it, and some South Africans also. Americans were almost. I think I might have been the only American. Maybe there was one or two others.
But that was that
Did that.
must have been an unbelievable experience for you. And the first thing was you probably spoke Hebrew perfectly. You probably spoke Hebrew perfectly by the time your second year was over, being 9 months in the Army or a year in the Army.
Yeah. When I went in, I didn't know anything, and when I came out, I spoke pretty well. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. That's really the way to learn Hebrew: is you immerse yourself in the Israeli culture and the Israeli society. If you're most Americans, we make Aliyah and then we go to the enclave. Little America is called Beit Shemesh or Chashmonaim or Modi'in or Efrat or Anana. And we stick with the in the street where they speak English. It's very funny. In my neighborhood, there was an Israeli couple lived on our block. They had 3 kids. The third kid spoke English like an American. All they did was speak English in the streets. She learned how to speak English. It was now she's a lawyer. I think she's going to be a judge here in Israel, and it's really unbelievable. Oh, here, look at this. Judy is writing in. Rabbi Steve Roth was the bar mitzvah teacher for my oldest son. He's
Okay,
32 now.
that's my
So
dad.
your dad taught bar mitzvah lessons.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember,
Okay,
Lenny.
so
We actually rehearsed a couple of times in my parents' basement. We
right, we're going to
did a
talk about
couple
that.
of.
That's the Mikdash album.
That's right.
Now, but before we get to Mikdash album, let's talk about the band. So you're coming with us on the band. Now you traveled a lot of places with us.
Yes. Yes.
Give me a couple of stories, or at least one story. What stands out in your
Wow.
travels with us?
Well, first of all, I owe you so much, Lenny, because I really got to see. I got to get out of New Jersey, and really, I got to go to places which I don't think I would ever have been to were it not for Schlock Rock. Places like San Antonio, Texas, or Shreveport, Louisiana, Greensboro, North Carolina.
Oh my
Places.
God! Yes.
I mean, and each place was really. What could be better for a single young guy with really no responsibilities to just be able to go out and travel and play music, and it was fantastic experience.
And I remember Shreveport, Louisiana, and I remember San Antonio, Texas. One of the great stories that we have is that when we ate Friday night dinner, the rabbi there was Rabbi Brett Oxman, who was a chaplain in the Air Force, one of the top
Right.
chaplains in the Air Force, and I think he's
Right.
living now in, I think Silver Spring, but it might be Denver. I don't remember because he's in touch with me. But anyway, he comes to us and he goes, in honor of the band, I shechted 12 chickens, and the bones are still outside. And I'm like, this chicken comes out of the supermarket.
Yeah,
There
it
were
was a
feathers
character.
all in the backyard, and it was like, oh my God, that
Yeah,
creates vegetarianism is what it does. But I
yeah,
still managed to eat it. I still managed to eat it over Shabbat.
yeah. A lot of fun. I got to see
And
the
you went to see
Alamo.
the Alamo, right? You got to see the
Yes,
Alamo.
that's right. Yeah, I brought home a T-shirt from the Alamo. I mean, those are great experiences.
Now, and Shreveport was interesting. Very, very humid place. Very humid.
Yeah,
Texas and Louisiana in the I don't know, even in the spring. I don't even remember what time of year we were there, but you got the flies coming off the dashboard. Um, we really have had an amazing. You talk about you got to see, and I've been to all 50 states. I've gone.
unbelievable,
Me
tremendous.
and Eitan G, we played Sioux Falls, South Dakota when it was minus 33.
Wow.
I mean, and people came out. They came out to the show.
It was
So
it was a really great time for me, and it was just wonderful. Just hanging around with it was just all of us hanging around with Mo and Dave Hirsch and just the guys. It was great.
right, and this was Schlock Rock 2.0. You took the original band was out of the band by 94, maybe even 92, but more like 94. Mo Shapiro took over on guitar. You took over on the drums. Mike Cohen played sax. Dave Hirsch played bass.
Yep.
Mark Infield stuck around. Mark Infield never really left.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and he still plays with us. And that was really 2.0. Trying to think if I'm leaving anybody out. I don't think I am. And eventually, you became so busy in the wedding business that Roy Weinberger slid into the drumming slot until we moved to Israel. But before we do that, let's talk about Mikdash. Mikdash was an album that you're the drummer on. We rehearsed.
Right.
We rehearsed in your dad's shul, right, or in the basement
The basement. Yep.
of
Right.
your house.
Right.
But it was also a shul, right? You used it as a shul.
Yes. We called it basement.
Yeah, that's funny. So,
Officially known as Congregation Eitz Chaim. To say.
and that is such an underrated album. I must tell everybody out there, if you get a chance, you go online, you download the album Mikdash, and it's even on CD Baby. You can get it on CD Baby. You can get it on schlockrock.com. And it might even be on Spotify and YouTube, and I don't even know. So it's all these it's on a lot of these streaming sites. But Mikdash, it was such a different type of an album. It just
All original and all great. Each one.
and it
Great songs.
reflected rock and roll. It reflected rock and roll. It reflected. It just had a lot of good grooves.
Yeah. And Yona Matzah is part of our standard Smirot for Shabbat.
Yeah,
every
one of
Shabbat.
the songs, one of the songs we sing every Shabbat afternoon. That's Yona Matzah, right?
Yep.
And also, I think a lot of the grooves had to do with Mo Shapiro. Mo Shapiro, his influence was on this album, musically, and maybe Dave Hirsch as well. But it really had a lot of. It was fun. It was just fun. The ninth track, which is Ki Lekach Tov, is like a Who song.
Right.
You know,
Right.
just really everything. There's so many different musical influences in that album.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're around halfway through already. It's 16 minutes after the hour. We are halfway through the show. Let me do a little bit of paperwork for people out there. You must know this is our 94th show, and I did a little bit of numbers today. We've had already over 93,000 viewers. That means we're averaging approximately 1,000 people viewing, 1,000 views per show, which is nice. But you don't get money from that, ladies and gentlemen. And the fourcornersproject.org is a 501c3 tax-deductible organization whose mission is to spread Jewish pride, Jewish identity, Jewish awareness through music, through media, to make you feel good about Judaism, to give you inspiration to want to learn more. And I really believe that it's worth a small donation, $36, $100, $18, whatever you got. I want to ask all of you guys to go to the fourcornersproject.org. Let me give you that little caption so you could see. There we go, right there. fourcornersproject.org, right? I think we can do an even better. This one is even better. Anyway, and make a donation for the year, and you will not be sorry. Okay, so that's our. In terms of scheduling, next week we're going to have a show on Monday night, on Tuesday night, and on Thursday night. 3 shows. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. One of them will be an interview show. It might be with Roy Weinberger. We're going to try to get Roy to come on, as he's going to. Oh, right. I forgot about Rami Strasberg. But Rami Strasberg was the sax player of 3.0. He really replaced Mike Cohen. Okay. So now you're in Israel. What year is this that you're in Israel?
2005. We come to Israel, summer of 2005.
And what do you do for a living here? So you tried to get into the business, the club date business. Very difficult. It's a very insular industry. You really have to know somebody and luck out, as it were.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was not your full-time living in America either.
No. I'm from my real job is that I'm a psychologist, and I work in Beit El, in the town of Beit El, and I run the school psychology services there. So that's what I do, and music is just fun and a little bit of extra cash on the side.
Yes, music is fun, and when it's fun, look, it's fun even when you're doing it for a living, but when it takes the edge off a little bit, because I'm sure being a psychologist, it has its stresses. The question is, did you have to do extra schooling to become a psychologist in Israel, or did they accept everything from America and you became and you just turned your psychologist degree into a job in Israel?
That's a whole nother program, Lenny. It kind of, when I got here, nobody really knew what to do with me, because there weren't a lot of Olim psychologists here, and the regulations hadn't really been written down or codified yet. So I spent 3 years just trying to figure out what my professional status was going to be here. And finally, I connected with the right person in the right position who kind of let me know that, okay, yeah, you seem to have the experience, and then, I was on my way. But it was a little,
Oh, that's a
little
cool.
sketchy for the first couple of years.
In a nutshell, you needed protectia. That's what you needed.
Well, part of what I do now is that I volunteer in this organization called Get Help Israel, and which connects, which actually supports people in the mental health field coming over to make Aliyah in Israel, and I kind of help them navigate the system. So it's a good feeling because I didn't have that when I came. So
That's really, really good. It's very funny because when I made Aliyah, first thing is there was no Nefesh Benefesh. It was 1996. We
right,
made Aliyah through Tehillah. Tehillah was an organization that made Aliyah.
right.
But nobody really could help me. Well, what can we do for you? Let's see. I'm the head of Shlock Rock. They couldn't do anything for me. But Hashem was really in charge of my career, as he's in charge of everybody's career. But he was really in charge of Shlock Rock because it just kept going. Shlock Rock was 10 years old when I made Aliyah, and the phone still kept ringing off the hook. And we did tours for many, many years, and now Shlock Rock is 35 years old. But all right.
By the way, that's the other great memory I have, Lenny, is when you used to come back in the summer and we do the summer camps.
Oh,
that was tremendous. Love that.
Yes, the summer camp tour just provided so much joy to kids.
Great
everywhere.
stuff. Love it.
And for us, it was, believe it or not, for everybody out there, part of the thrill of being a Jewish rock musician is the touring. The touring, going from city to city, getting on a different stage every night and playing, and the kids go crazy, and you get their energy, and they react, and you're throwing energy out to them, and they're throwing energy back at you. That's part of what makes it fantastic,
Totally.
So you played the summer camp tours with us, but when you came to Israel, you started playing with us a little at a time. We got you back into the groove. This was what, 2005?
2005 is when we came on Aliyah, and we would do the Beit Shemesh Sukkot parties, the Sukkot festivals.
Right, there was the Jewish Rock Festival in Beit Shemesh, which we played 20 years in a row, pretty much. Last year they didn't have it because of Corona. I'm not sure they're going to have it this year. Well, I'm hoping they'll have it this year. I'm hoping by this summer, certainly by September, we're back to a semblance of normalcy.
I hope so. Yeah.
I keep asking people, when is normalcy going to happen? Will you please tell me? So somebody just told me 2024.
No.
I said, no. I said, we can't deal with 2024. We need a little bit of a better answer than that. So then they said, okay, 2022. Now 2022 is still next January.
No, things are starting to look up. I think I'm hopeful.
I think so too, and I think by this summer, and maybe even at the latest Rosh Hashanah of next year, we will be back to normal. I mean, we're already getting back into shuls, into Knesset.
Right.
It's So it has been challenging. I must tell you, it has been challenging. I watched this really great Paul McCartney video the other day, where he talked about him writing songs with John Lennon, and that he would come into a session, and he would be 3 hours in the studio, and they would always finish a song, no matter what. They would finish a song, and I thought to myself, I should be doing that. I should be every day, 3 hours, writing a song. Every day, writing a new song. And
I just assumed that's what you do every day, Lenny.
I haven't really been
what
doing
you do.
it. I think the Corona depression has gotten to me. And as my psychologist,
you are by far one of the most productive people I know, Lenny.
I know, but I want to write more already. It's time to do new albums. It's time, everybody. New albums. We need new music. All right. So let's talk about it. So the gigs that you played here in Israel, you played with us the Sukkot concerts. Did we do anything really amazing? I'm trying to think.
We did the Billy Joel.
Oh yeah. We put together, everybody.
That was fantastic.
All of our listeners, we put together a Billy Joel tribute band, and we did a Billy Joel concert in Efrat.
It was in Alon Shvut.
It was Alon Shvut, which is near Efrat. Alon Shvut is actually the city next to Efrat, and it's all in the Gush. It's called Gush Etzion, the Gush, where there's lots and lots of Jews living. Of course, in Israel, there are lots of Jews living everywhere. It's but anyway, we did this Billy Joel tribute concert, which 400 people came to. It was a sold-out show.
Amazing.
And we practiced 4 times for it to try to get it perfect.
And we sounded pretty darn good, I have to say.
And we actually have a video of it, but we've never released it. But it was really, really amazing. Before believe it or not, we're already at 10:26. I must do a little bit of prayers for the sick. We right now, in surgery, I'm getting the word that Shneir Yehuda ben Shana is in surgery. So let's say something healing for him and for everybody out there. Eliza bat Sheva, Yitzhak ben Yenta, Tova bat Esther, Binyamin Yaakov ben Chava, Yafa Efrona bat Henya Yehudit, Chana Leah bat Malka Sima, Shlomo Halevi ben Esther. I think he lives in South Africa. Peril bat Esther, Rivka Fruma bat Leah Bela, Shmuel Michael ben Malka. That's our friend Shmuel Laser, who he needs our tefillot. So, and Miriam Dodi bat Chana Yochevet, and Yosef Chanoch ben Shulamit Chaya. Okay, those are our names. If any of you want to daven for them, just say a prayer for them, Psalms, Tehillim, whatever you want to do. So here we are back, Mike, in Israel. You just recently played on one of my albums, and I believe you played on a kids album too, but I can't remember. No? You didn't play on Shlock Rock for Kids Volume 3? Are you sure?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Okay, so then the album that you played on was called Shira Yetera, which was released in 2019, I believe. A great album, another really, really fun Hebrew album.
A lot of fun to play on.
Mikdash, and you were on Shira Yetera as the drummer. And you did that at Jeff Harvich's studio.
Right.
And the Mikdash album was done with Mick Cantarella, right?
That's right.
In Park Slope, Brooklyn.
Yes.
It was called Park
I remember
Slope.
that.
I think that's what Park Slope.
And I'm on the Woodstock cover, a picture of me.
That's right.
I'm on the Woodstock cover.
That's right. Mike is on Woodstock, on the album Woodstock, the cover of the album. Right. You weren't playing on the album, but you were on the cover of the album. Roy Weinberger played on the album.
Right.
All right. So let's talk about a couple more things. Tell us about the elevators.
Okay, so in 2007, I had a person who we all know, Laser Lloyd, who was a great guitarist here in Israel. Yeah. We had some mutual friends, and he introduced me to some guys, one from Modi'in, one from the Moshav, and we kind of formed a band playing 70s rock and roll and Grateful Dead covers, and it's been a really great trip, and we've been together since 2007, playing together. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, it's been a really good outlet.
You play Grateful Dead, and what else do you play besides Grateful Dead? Like what type of music? Dylan?
We play Eagles. We do some Eagles covers. We do some Doobie Brothers covers. What else? Yeah, it's 70s Dire Straits. Early Dire Straits.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's good music.
Yeah.
That's very, very interesting. I was talking to somebody about the 2 best harmony groups in American rock and roll. And, of course, the number 1 harmony group, in my opinion, was the Eagles. I love their harmonies.
Yeah. Yeah, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young also.
Yes, they're great. But I think better than them, the Beach Boys were the second best harmony group.
Okay.
Now, But that's my personal opinion because there were really there's a zillion. There's a zillion. What about
Yeah.
Kansas with "Carry On, My Wayward Son"?
Yeah.
And I mean that's fantastic harmonies.
Yeah. I think the Eagles are probably a little more prolific than Kansas, but yeah. But
Yes, that's the thing. Kansas didn't have the
it was,
library, the catalog that
yeah.
but there's a lot of great harmony grades. But I had the Eagles and the Beach Boys as 1-2. But I'm sure other people are going to write to us now and they're going to chime in. They're going to tell us what they like. Anyway, so here we are. Let's talk about what are your goals in terms of playing music here in Israel. What would you like to accomplish?
Yeah, so this Elevators project is a lot of fun, and we've kind of been shut down also because of Corona. We haven't played for about a year or so,
Right.
and hopefully we're gonna get back. It's really we played when we were playing together. We played about once or twice a month in different pubs around Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Made very little money, but just had a blast playing. And so hopefully that'll come around again, and hopefully I can get back to playing with you, Lenny. I miss you.
I know. Well, I know. It's unbelievable. I mean, if I would do a contest, how many gigs have I performed for people in front of me, like real people? I'm not talking about for the camera. Right now, I am so comfortable in front of the camera. I'm like a television. I'm like a television MC. You know, this is like the Mike Douglas show. It's the Lenny Solomon show. Lenny Solomon live. So I feel very comfortable in front of the camera now. I don't need people on the other side to like be in front of me. I thought when I first started out that it was kind of strange to play just for a camera, but it's gotten it's gotten way too comfortable, and I want to go out and perform. You know,
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
we have to do some tours again, but I don't think this summer will be the summer for touring. I still think we're a year away from touring. That could be by this Hanukkah there'll be a tour to America. And
It's kind of like what you said before. It's like, for musicians, they feed off crowds, They just
Right.
they need that input from playing in front of people.
It's true. There's nothing like that energy. I remember playing Yeshiva University, and we were on the bill with Benny Friedman and Nissan Black just recently, and we did Minion Man. And I threw the song out to the audience like Springsteen did in Hungry Heart at the Meadowlands when I saw him. And the whole place goes, I asked the man, I saw how many Jews in this town. Full auditorium singing the chorus.
Yeah.
It was a Springsteen-esque type moment for me where I just said, that is energy,
Nothing like it. Nothing like it at all.
No, it's true. So I want to thank you for coming. I wanted to be ready. We are, as they say, in the 33-minute mark, which is great. And I want to say that it's been great having you. I look forward to playing with you. As everybody out there who lives in Israel, when we have a gig, you will see Mike on drums because he's the number one drummer, assuming that he's available. And hopefully we will have lots of fun musical experiences in the next 60 to 300 years, depending on
Amen.
how long, depending on what Hashem wants to do. But it's been great having you, and I want to tell everybody out there, remember, Lenny Solomon Live. Lenny Solomon Live. Show number 94 is in the books. And have a great Shabbat. We'll see you on Monday as we get 16 days to Pesach. By the time I see you on Monday, we will be down to 12 days, 13 days till the Pesach Seder. And I'm sure we will start playing Passover songs. We've got to play some Pesach songs for Shlock Rock for the show next week. So that will be fun. And have a Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And we will see you next week.
Thanks, Len.
Live. Thank you, Mike, for coming into studio.